Cooking in general has always been very interesting to me. I was introduced to cooking at a very young age because my mom and dad owned a restaurant when I was about 4 or 5. I remember waking up early with my dad and walking into the kitchen and smelling all the wonderful aromas of food cooking. I spent most of my early childhood at Real Food Nation. That's what it's called. Just playing around and having fun. I chose to focus my culinary skills on on smoking meat to better understand this way of preserving food and to cook some delicious food for my friends and family. About 500,000 years ago, the dietary needs of our ancient ancestors changed. And a version of Homo erectus called the Peking man was discovered in southeastern China. And this was the first evidence of Homo erectus using fire to cook their food. This shift allowed us to digest much easier and gain more nutrients from the food itself. The heat from the smoking process also kills bacteria that may be present in the meat, and this heat also dehydrates the meat, removing moisture, and that can promote the growth of bacteria. The smoke can create a barrier that helps prevent oxygen from coming in contact with the meat, and this slows down the oxidation process, which makes meat spoil. Neanderthals didn't use fire. They ate raw meat. That's why they had the pronounced jaws. But this also made them come in contact with a lot more parasites, which was one of the leading factors to their extinction. Smoking meat is an ancient practice that dates back to prehistoric times, when humans discovered that they could preserve meat by exposing it to smoke. This practice was widespread among indigenous people all around the world, including Native Americans, Aboriginal Australians, and African tribes. The earliest methods of smoking involved hanging meat above a fire, which is that. I couldn't find a picture of meat like smoking in the caveman days, so I just did that. It works. This acted as a preservation method as well as adding much needed flavor since they didn't have any spices or anything to flavor their meat with. Over time, different cultures developed unique smoking techniques and flavor profiles based on the different types of woods and herbs available to them. Can you imagine Europe before refrigerators? They would eat like kings for a couple of days and then starve for weeks. In Europe, smoking meat became a very popular practice in the Middle Ages, as it was an effective way to preserve without refrigeration. Smoked meats like ham, bacon, and sausages were considered a delicacy and were often served at feasts and celebrations. Europeans often built smokehouses to shelter their meat from the elements and provide a fully enclosed area so the smoke can fully penetrate the meat. They pretty much just lay a tube right here, keep a fire going in that little pit area, and then have some opening so it's not just completely smoke filled. They would leave it in there for months, just keeping the fire going, and in 1492, Christopher Columbus arrived on the island of Hispaniola and marveled at the natives' cooking techniques. One of these was barbacoa. This cooking style eventually evolved into modern barbecue. This barbacoa involved smoking a pig over an open spit, or over an open fire. Another popular type of meat in the West Indies was jerk, which is a style of cooking that involves marinating the meat in a mixture of herbs and spices and then smoking it over a pimento wood fire. This technique originated in Jamaica and is now popular throughout the Caribbean. Other types of meat that are popular in the West Indies include smoked fish such as herring and mackerel, as well as smoked pork, beef, and chicken. These meats are typically marinated with a mixture of herbs and spices and smoked over a hardwood fire. Smoking meat remains an important part of the culinary tradition in the West Indies and is still practiced using traditional techniques and methods. Today, smoking meat is not only a means of preservation, but also a way to impart rich, smoky flavors to a variety of dishes. Native American smoking methods. There isn't much on the smoking methods of Native Americans, but often they would just hang the meat over sticks and let the smoke envelop it until it became kind of a jerky-like substance. And then yeah, jerky's pretty much it doesn't go bad pretty much. They would also skewer the meat over a fire, usually with salmon, and like spread the salmon out and then stick wood in between. Ancient Egyptian and Sumerians would cover pork, beef, and chicken with rice bran oil, then smoke it at very high temperatures for hours. There are 5,000-year-old hieroglyphs in Egypt describing the drying and splitting of fish in sub-Saharan Africa. Fishing has been a food source and an income for millions of people all over the African continent for centuries. But fish deteriorates very fast, so people began inventing new methods, curing, fermenting, and smoking. Smoking and fermenting are the most common preservation methods, and they usually smoke on a large grill like that, or a clay bowl. So they just line the bottom of the clay bowl with wood chips and charcoals, and just let the smoke go up through the fish. I think these are chickens, but I don't know. Alright, the people of Hawaii make a delicious dish called kalua pork, which is smoked underground in an oven called an inu. They usually start a fire underground, cover it with rocks and vegetation, and they use specifically chosen rocks to ensure that they don't explode. Usually volcanic. The pork is covered with banana leaves and then left to cook for about 3 hours. And they also pile more vegetation and rocks on top of that to where they eventually get this mound of cooking. These methods are much different from those of today, and as the world develops, food develops with kalua pig. I've been smoking meat on an automatic pellet-fed smoker that I got for my birthday last year. And basically, you just put the pellets in here, and then it sends them down here to like a little, almost like a forge area, and it just gets blasted with fire. And these pellets are usually just ground sawdust that's been compressed into like little kind of pill-sized pieces of wood. Yeah, that's filling it. There are a couple different kinds of smokers, but a meat smoker can be built very easily out of pretty much anything, and as you can see here, the people in Texas get very creative with it. The smoking gun. This one I thought was really cool. I don't even know how that works. And armadillo. Of course, the bike smoker. And then Jack Daniel smoker. And this one I think has like an engine. And it can, like, it's got like a little car, which is pretty cool. There are a couple different kinds of smokers. The most popular are pellet smokers, offset smokers, gas smokers, and kettle grills. This right here is the offset smoker. So you fill this with charcoal and then put wood chips on top of that, and then that would allow the smoke to come up here and out there and just smoke underneath. The kettle grill is pretty simple. It's also just charcoal on the bottom, and then you just put wood chips on, and you can smoke using that. Alright, when smoking meat, or when smoking, there are a couple kinds of wood chips, there are a couple kinds of wood chips that are used more often than others. And it's important when choosing what wood you're going to use. It's important to consider what you're smoking. Hickory is one of the most common types of wood chips, and it produces a strong, smoky flavor that is slightly sweet and nutty. This one is apple, and this is mesquite. So the fruit trees kind of give off similar flavors to the fruit they produce. Like a maple tree would give off mapley smoke. Alright, smoking meat is a delicious way to add flavor and texture, but it's important to keep some safety measures in mind when smoking. Before smoking, make sure to clean your smoker thoroughly, removing any ash or debris. Like that, you don't want that. Also, that's just a trash can smoke. Pretty cool. This helps prevent the buildup of harmful bacteria and foodborne illness. It's very important to use a meat thermometer to make sure the meat is cooked to the correct temperature, to eliminate any harmful bacteria. Smoking meat make sure the meat has reached 145 degrees for pork, beef, veal, and lamb, and 165 for poultry. Smoking meat at a temperature below 225 can cause harmful bacteria to grow, while smoking at temperatures above 300 can dry out the meat and create carcinogens. Always make sure that your smoker is in the safe and within that range. Raw meat can contain harmful bacteria that can spread into other foods if not handled properly. Make sure to keep raw meat separate from other foods and use different utensils and cutting boards for that. Also, don't use wooden cutting boards because it just it collects bacteria, and it's just not, it ruins your cutting boards. Before I smoked any meat, I started by cold smoking cheese. When cold smoking, you don't turn on the smoker. You just light. I lit this. It's a pasta strainer, and then I put hickory pellets in it, and then I just lit it with a blowtorch. Which worked great. As a little bit later, I'll pass out some smoked cheese. Technically, you don't even need a smoker. You just need like a barrel or an enclosed area where you can smoke effectively. I made sure that the flame here wasn't directly underneath the cheese, because that's just how it melts. That's why we're cold smoking, to prevent any heat from getting in there. For the first batch of cheese I did a little wheel of Gouda and then 2 balls of mozzarella, which turned out good. Gouda always turns out great. I think it's like the perfect cheese to smoke. but the mozzarella had like a kind of a weird smoky film around it, which was pretty overpowering, but it made a really good caprese salad once you cut that off. The second batch was more smoked Gouda. Let's see. Yeah, more smoked Gouda, rosemary, olive oil, Asiago, which is right there. That's what I'm passing out. And spicy pepper Gouda. The spicy pepper Gouda just melted. I don't know for what reason, but just straight up melted. But yeah, here's some videos. This is the mozzarella. But yeah, you can see it, like that dark kind of overlayer did not make it taste good. He was disappointed. Here's the cheese on the smoker. That's the Gouda. The method. Okay. I then smoked a balsamic Belvita, which did not turn out good. I don't know why. The balsamic just did not add good flavors to that. Like, it was pretty bad. A bergamot hibiscus and a garlic and herbs Gouda, which turned out incredible. I mean, you can't go wrong with garlic and Gouda. Oh yeah. This was my first attempt at a brisket. As you can see, it did not go well. I burned the hell out of it. But this was kind of what people in prehistoric time made. So, I don't know. It worked out. It was super stringy and it was just not good. Alright, this was the first piece of meat me and my dad started turning. And seasoning, it was bison short ribs. Oh, I'm sorry about the beginning of that. Yeah. There we go. Okay. And my dad in this is just telling me to like always season from above. You know, you can never go wrong with garlic, of course. So yeah, we put lemon pepper, garlic, or garlic powder, and I think some actual garlic as well. We trimmed this of the silver skin and fat to make it more tender. Getting rid of that silver skin really breaks down the meat, and you can get it to a much tender place. Oh. I don't know why it's. I guess we're gonna have that in. Alright. Huh? Full screen. I'm in the screen. Oh! But okay. Oh yeah, so I left that pork shoulder in the fridge along with some, I left the bison short ribs in the fridge along with some pork shoulder for like about a weekend, and it went bad so fast. Like it just smelled terrible. So I couldn't end up smoking those, which really sucked. I hate wasting meat. That's the worst. The next cut I smoked was 2 racks of baby back ribs. I first trimmed these ribs of all the fat and silver skin, and then put a mesquite dry rub on them, then layered them with Teague's barbecue sauce. I also put lime wedges on it and some lime juice as well. I put these in the oven for about 2 hours and then finished them on the smoker. This was my first round of ribs, so it did not go well. They were very chewy and just not good ribs. Luckily for my second round, turned out way better. My good friend's dad had a recipe for braising ribs in beer, which was a great idea. So we, same thing, layered it with cheese and barbecue sauce, and then put them in the smoker, put them in the oven for about 2.5 hours. Then put them on the smoker. I put 3 modellas in each little deep dish pan, and then put about a whole onion in each and a whole bowl of garlic. And then yeah, just some lime wedges on top too, and some lime juice to get some flavor. Yeah, these turned out by far the best. Like, I just couldn't have asked for anything better. As you can, oh yeah, this is me spraying them with apple cider vinegar. That gives it like acidity, and yeah, just makes them a whole lot better. I also wrapped these in parchment paper and tin foil before I put them on the smoker. I didn't do that in the oven. But yeah, it really made a difference. The tin foil makes a huge difference, even though it's not the best for your brain. It's okay. Alright, this is the end result, which I was really happy with. Yeah, I had trouble cutting it, but then it just fell off the bone, so worked out. Great. Yeah, made a nice little McRib out of that, and ate it with some smoked mac and cheese. That was super. But yeah, it turned out great. And then for my third rack of ribs, pretty similar. I followed the same process and got the same results. They were very loose and just perfect. Delicious. Yeah, this is the final. I love this picture. Okay. Okay. I next smoked a whole duck. First, I patted it down with a dry paper towel. And, oh yeah, duck is a very fatty poultry. So when cooking it, we've got to make sure to render the fat. We do this by poking holes in the outer skin, because that's where 90% of the fat is held. Just because ducks are cold weather animals, they need a lot of insulation. Yeah, the fat escaped and crisped up, which made it awesome. Then I salted the duck, and stuffed it with a whole onion, 1.5 lemons, a lime, and 2 mandarin oranges. I then put a glaze on it, which is this right here. I made this glaze using balsamic vinegar, soy sauce, and garlic honey, which was out of this world. It was really good. I let this sit and soak for about an hour and a half, and turned my smoker to about 300 degrees, and let the duck cook until the internal temperature of the breast was 170, and the wing was 165. Yeah, I glazed the duck about 7 times over a span of about 6 hours, which just gave it some great flavor and added with that fat. Yeah, it was the perfect amount of smokiness and sauce. It was great. Oh yeah, this is just me breaking some bones on there. It wasn't as tender as the ribs, but it worked. Alright. Oh yeah, so I burned the back a little bit, but that doesn't really matter because there's no meat on the back. Like it's just backbone. But yeah, this part turned out real nice. You can see. That was the end result. Got ate real fast. Alright, ham and cheese. So I smoked this ham right here. It's a honey baked ham. So I lathered it with some honey and salt and pepper, and smoked it for about 4 to 5 hours ish. And yeah, great. Turned out great at about 300 degrees. Okay. So I'd like to thank my mentor, Andrew MacLauchlan, for all the good advice and seasoning tips, and all the life advice over the years. I'd like to thank my mom for supporting me through the process, and my friends for helping me cook some great food. I'd also like to thank Mr. Ryan for giving me some awesome tips. Just about formatting this and getting it into a nice written form to where I can read it. Special thanks to Keenan, Charlie, Rick, and Jonah for just always being ready to smoke some meat on Saturday. It was super fun. Any questions?
With your brisket experience, that is 205 pretty good temperature?
205.
I think it's more like 225. Brisket.
220.
225. And yours, you mentioned it got torched. Right?
Yeah, it's because I did it at 300 for some reason. I Googled it and I got the wrong information.
Okay. I think it could be either 205, between 205 and 225.
Oh.
Right? 225. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I still got to perfect the brisket cooking process.
It's rough. I tried to cook one this weekend and it didn't go well. I was looking same thing. But
can you tell the difference between grilling and smoking? I mean, in some ways it sounds obvious, but
so grilling, it involves an open flame and cooking directly on that flame and basically searing both sides and getting a nice medium rare or whatever you want in the middle. And then smoking is putting the meat on a grill and then just exposing it to smoke for a much longer time.
What is the result in the flavor?
For smoking?
Yeah.
Smoking is.
Is it like majorly noticeable compared to?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you'll notice. I think I oversmoked the cheese a little bit, so it might be a little too smoky, but you'll definitely notice in these things that I have here.
What was your favorite wood to smoke with?
Hickory. Hickory was the best.
For any reason?
Yeah, mesquite is super intense, and you have to smoke everything for way less time. And hickory just gives a nice flavor. I love the flavor.
Did you smoke any fish?
No, I didn't. I was trying to get around to it, but I didn't end up doing it.
What's the advantages of using a pellet smoker versus just like a normal wood chip smoker?
Well, so at least the automatic pellet fed, you just don't have to pay attention to it as much. All you got to do is set it to a temperature, and it'll stay at that temperature. And then, but with the other smoker, you've got to kind of tend the fire and get it into a good range, not stoke it too much and not too little. So it's a little harder with other types of smokers. Pardon.
Is there a major difference in smoking fish over, say, beef?
Just in temp, or just in internal temp, and it still preserves it the same, and you get similar smoky flavors out of when you smoke each. I guess it's a little more fishy. All right. That's right.
Do you have any interest in doing some traditional smoking techniques, like the Gilman and stuff? You want to study that and learn to do that as you go forward as
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think me and some people over here were planning on doing a pit roast of a whole pig this summer. So that should be maybe the line is. Yeah, it should be good.
If you smoke meat, do you have to refrigerate it after, or is it fine just by itself?
That depends on what you're doing. A brisket or something like that, or ribs, you would have to refrigerate just to kill off the bacteria. But if you're doing something a lot more smoke, like beef jerky, beef jerky you wouldn't have to put in the fridge. So.